Right, troops. Today we are in Russia, or if you prefer, ancient Greece, or if you prefer, old Bulgaria, but also Russia. Watch this and learn if you want to know why. So picture this. Circa sometime around 543 BC, or if you prefer, exactly 543 BC, a bunch of Greek refugees fleeing wars with Persia rock up here, looking for a new hangout spot, somewhere a bit less worry and killy than back home. And they arrive at what we now call the Taman Peninsula, Western Russia. The Greeks decided to plop down a new city here and name it Phanagoria, after one of the colonists named Phanagoras. I guess this guy must have been the boss of the bunch. Otherwise, I doubt the rest would be too happy with their new home being named after just any old random. It's a good job his name wasn't Bob, I suppose. It's strange how names can sound different to different people in different times and cultures. Because to me, Phanagoras is a bloody awful name. Sounds shit. If I named my son this, I wouldn't be too surprised if he went postal. Still though, Phanagoria it was to be. I make it sound like the Greeks just chose this place randomly, but that's only because I'm a tit, and I like playing with words. Truth is, the location at Phanagoria was chosen very deliberately. These Greek refugees settled here because they had full intention of securing trade back home to Greece from what was at that time called the Myotian Marshes. This was the ancient name for that part of the world we now call the Sea of Azov. Just like today, as was in the oldie days, this part of the world was rich in wheat, barley and other breadstuffs, and also, just like today, folk back then liked to not starve, and just like that, Phanagoria was born, and trade of all this foodstuff was secured for shipment back to Greece. Phanagoria quickly became a bustling port city, where Greeks traded wine, grain, and probably gossip about who was wearing the coolest toga. But just like all successful and rich cities, it's never too long before the poorer folk on the outside pick up their swords and come to try steal stuff. Barely a century after its founding, the independent polis of Phanagoria was invaded and subjugated by the area's new Bosporan Kingdom. Fast forward a couple of centuries, and Phanagoria is now not only the capital of this Bosporan Kingdom, but one of the richest cities on the Black Sea. The city was rolling in wine and grain, and thankfully zero Instagram influencers. Imagine how nice life must have been in those days, just drinking wine and eating bread and occasionally fighting off the odd invader baying for your blood. Ah, the tranquility. Wasn't too long though before the Romans showed up, all like, "Nice place you got here, mind if we civilize it a bit?" In the 1st century BC, the Roman Empire kicked off the Mithridatic Wars against the Kingdom of Pontus, who were one of the other big players in the region at that time. Wisely realizing which way the wind was blowing, Phanagoria sided with the Romans against Pontus, a chip they played very well. Picking the right side allowed Phanagoria a freedom they may not have enjoyed otherwise. Queen of Phanagoria, Queen Dynamis, declared that the Roman leader Augustus was the Emperor Caesar, son of a god, the god Augustus, and the overseer of every land and sea, which is a level of ass-kissing I have yet in my life to kowtow myself to, but also well played. I guess it's a case of either kowtow to this new guy and call him a god, or have you and your people bitch-slapped so hard your descendants face centuries of regret. Queen Dynamis may have kissed ass, but her descendants had very little regret. As the Bosporan Kingdom became Rome's longest-running and most successful subjugated kingdom, Phanagoria enjoyed centuries of peace and prosperity under Roman rule, and the locals were probably relieved that their roads finally had fewer potholes. Loyalty to Rome ensured Phanagoria maintained its dominant position in the region right up until the 4th century AD, when the Huns arrived and Phanagoria received its very first, very major ass-kicking. However, Phanagoria decided it was not yet finished being important. During the Byzantine period, Phanagoria survived further invasions from various nomadic tribes, including more Huns, who were the original party crashers. Imagine a city constantly dealing with gate crashers who never brought their own wine to the party. Despite these invasions, Phanagoria kept its cool and stayed relevant thanks to its prime real estate along trade routes. It's a bit of a win-lose, love-hate situation. On one hand, it's great being at the centre of trade because you're also then the centre of money, and the people in Phanagoria liked money. But on the other hand, you have different fingers. Enter the 7th century AD, and Phanagoria is now the capital of Old Bulgaria, the region's latest empire. And in 704 AD, Phanagoria was chosen as a safe haven for the newly deposed Byzantine emperor, Justinian II, and his wife Theodora, who was herself the sister of the city's new Khazar king. The city then found itself under the rule of the Khazar Khaganate, a fancy name for another group of rulers who probably couldn't get enough of the city's excellent location. Phanagoria chilled with the Khazars until the 10th century, when the Russian state of Kievan Rus came knocking. Phanagoria's new Russian landlords brought their own brand of fun in the form of blood, violence, fire and destruction. The locals likely thought, well, at least we've got vodka now, or at least we will do just as soon as vodka gets invented. Phanagoria's glory days couldn't last forever, though. The new Rus leaders may well have brought day drinking, but that was only because they had also brought such a level of destruction to the city that it was impossible to recover. The Rus basically turned up, smashed everything they could, burnt everything else to the ground and handed some shots to what was left of the locals, before fucking off again into the distance. Toodaloo, suckers! The destruction by the Rus armies would be Phanagoria's final fight. The city never recovered and was soon abandoned, left to the whims of nature. In the 15th century, new Italian colonists from Genoa discovered the ruins of Phanagoria and founded a new settlement on top of the ruins that they called Matrega. However, this settlement was short-lived and died off again just as quickly as the rich Gisolfi family who had ruled it. By the 19th century, Russian archaeologists stumbled upon the ruins and started digging, unearthing artifacts that screamed, "This place was legit!" They found everything from ancient Greek graffiti to public buildings, all of which screamed, "Hey, we were cool once!" Today, Phanagoria is a star of Russian archaeology, drawing researchers who are eager to piece together its storied past. The site continues to reveal treasures that highlight its role in the grand tapestry of ancient and medieval history. Modern visitors probably think, who knew a place with a name like Phanagoria could be so fascinating? Not me, that's for sure. I still reckon Phanagoris is a bloody awful name. And then, one day, 1,000 years later, I rocked up with my pen and my mouse and made this map for the game Cities Skylines 2, because that's what I do. I love to reimagine history. What if Phanagoria had never been destroyed? How would it look today? What city might it have become? If you also want to find out, feel free to download this free map from the Paradox mod store by following the link in the description below. Now, before we get into the map information, I'm reminded by my wife to remind you to like and subscribe. She says that if you don't, then she will name our firstborn child Phanagoras, even if it's a girl, therefore subjecting me to a future life of torture and regret, which I'd rather just avoid, so please do that. Also, there's a Patreon too. Add yourself to that if you feel like I deserve it, or don't. If you don't, it's all good. It's your life. You live it how you like. Now for that map information, here it comes. Climate -5 to 33 degrees Celsius. Buildable area 71%. Outside connections, roads, rail, shipping, air, power, natural resources. Wheat 115 square kilometers. Forest 83.6 kilotons or 150 kilotons. Oil 120 kilotons. Terrain. Lots of flat areas around some small to medium hills. And that's it, ancient Greek ladies and modern Russian gentlemen. That's all for Phanagoria. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe so that you get that wee notification the next time I post some crazy wee video about some other long-gone city. We are at the ending now because this is the end. Peace, love, and Phanagoria. Goodbye.